Rain tapped softly against the narrow hospital window. Emma's body burned with fever, her strength fleeting with every shallow breath. She pressed the phone to her ear, voice trembling. I can't come today. I've been preparing, but I'm in the hospital." The voice on the other end was cold and unyielding. "Miss Harper, interviews are strictly scheduled. If you are not present at the designated time, your application will be disqualified. No exceptions. Thank you." Click. Emma let the phone slip onto the bed. Tears blurred her vision, not from the fever, but from the weight of lost opportunity. Her eyes fell on the leather folder lying on her chest, the resume she had prepared painstakingly, with a small handwritten note atop. "This is my chance. My life starts here." A soft sound from the corner drew her gaze. 4-year-old Mia sat curled on a chair, eyes wide, hands clasped. She had watched her mother sacrifice everything, late nights skipped, meals, endless work. And now she saw her mother crying, small and helpless. When Emma drifted into a deep sleep, Mia rose. The folder in her tiny hands felt heavier than ever. She pulled on her yellow dress, the one with embroidered daisies, and slipped silently toward the door. Her plan was reckless. She was only 4, alone in a busy city, heading straight into a corporate building she'd only seen in pictures. Every step was dangerous, yet her determination outweighed her fear. The city was a blur of umbrellas and rushing strangers. Wind bit her cheeks, but she pressed on, following the bus route she had memorized, holding the folder like a shield, like a talisman. A taxi swerved too close, but Mia didn't flinch. Her resolve outweighed every danger. 40 minutes later, Mia stood before Hawthorne and Company, the skyscraper gleaming in the morning sun. Everyone spoke of the CEO in hushed tones, untouchable, unyielding, impossible to impress. Her heart pounded, but her small face was set with purpose. Inside, polished marble and the hum of busy staff surrounded her. She approached the front desk, where a young receptionist, Elena, typed away. Elena looked up, startled. "Can I help you, little one?" I'm here for the interview," Mia said, voice small but unwavering. "It's my mom's. She's sick today, so I came instead." Elena blinked, caught between disbelief and awe. "Wait, did you say interview?" she asked, taking a slow breath. "Your mom?" "Yes. Emma Harper. She deserves this." Elena hesitated, eyes scanning the oversized folder in the child's hands. Around them, employees paused mid-step, drawn to the tiny figure radiating resolve. "Okay, wait here. I think the CEO should see this," Elena whispered, disbelief etched across her face. Mia nodded once, a flicker of pride lighting her eyes. "No matter what, I won't fail her," she thought, the tiniest quiver of fear buried beneath steel determination. The CEO was untouchable, feared by all. But when he saw a 4-year-old clutching a life-changing folder, even he froze. The city streets hummed with the morning rush. Cars honked, tires screeched, and the scent of hot asphalt mixed with the faint aroma of coffee from the corner cafe. But to 4-year-old Mia, it was all background noise. Her small frame pushed forward with determination, a pink dress with little bows fluttering slightly in the cold breeze. In her hands, the oversized folder, the lifeline of her mother's dreams, felt heavier than it really was. A taxi swerved too close, tires squealing against the asphalt. She sidestepped without a sound. A stranger bumped her shoulder, muttered an impatient curse, and kept walking. She didn't flinch. Every step, every heartbeat, was for Mama. Nothing else mattered. "This is for Mama. I can do this." Mia had seen the building before, its image taped to the refrigerator at home. A glass tower, reaching into the sky, reflecting sunlight like a shard of hope. Her eyes focused, unwavering, as she crossed streets, boarded the correct bus, and counted stops with meticulous care. Each passing moment added urgency. Every minute delayed could cost her mother the opportunity she deserved. Finally, the doors of the skyscraper opened, and Mia stepped into the lobby. The marble floors gleamed under the artificial lights, and the hum of conversation mixed with clicking Heels created a rhythm that would intimidate any adult. But Mia did not waver. She held the folder like a shield, standing as if she belonged. Charlotte, the receptionist, looked up from her schedule, squinting at the small figure before her. "Sweetheart, are you looking for someone?" she asked, leaning over the counter. Mia lifted the folder higher, her blue eyes wide, serious, and impossibly certain. "I'm here for the interview," she said simply. "It's my mama's. She's sick, so I came instead. She deserves it." Charlotte blinked, uncertain if she had heard right. "Interview? Are you sure?" "Yes," Mia nodded, holding the folder like it contained magic. "Please. It's urgent. You need to see this." A hush spread across the lobby. Employees paused mid-step, murmurs rising. Charlotte pressed the earpiece to her mouth. "Lena, send him down. Now. The last interview, it's important. Very important." Upstairs in the sleek office overlooking the city skyline, Albert Braden, 32, the CEO of Braden and Company, paused mid-sip of his coffee. Known for his ruthless precision, cold demeanor, and untouchable reputation, he had never tolerated surprises in his life. Yet, something in the assistant's voice made him pause. A flicker of curiosity, an unfamiliar twinge. He adjusted his watch, straightened his tie, and walked toward the elevator. The doors opened, and the lobby unfolded beneath him like a polished stage. And there she was. Mia, barely taller than the front desk, standing with her folder clutched tightly, eyes blazing, with a courage no adult could command. He froze. Untouchable, feared by all, yet here stood a 4-year-old, holding a folder that could change a life. He had never faced anything like this. "Lily," Charlotte stammered. "Sir." Mia's small voice rang clear. "I'm here to show you my mama's paper. She's sick. He really wants this job, and she deserves it." Albert's brows rose. For the first time in years, he felt an emotion that was not calculation or strategy. Awe. The lobby seemed to pause around them. Charlotte whispered, "Clear my schedule for 15 minutes. This is the interview." Mia's lips curved into a tiny, determined smile. "No matter what, I won't fail her." Albert knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "Shall we?" he asked. Mia nodded, climbing onto the oversized chair with a confidence that belied her age. Her feet dangled above the floor, but her hands rested firmly on the folder. "Tell me," Albert said, scanning the resume as he gestured toward the folder. "Why does your mother want this job?" Mia's eyes lit with a mixture of pride and urgency. "Mama works very hard. She never buys anything for herself. She only wants to give me a better life. This job, it can help her do that." Albert studied her carefully. For years old, speaking with a clarity and conviction that many adults could not summon. He leaned back, letting the silence stretch, a quiet pause thick with weight and meaning. "And you came all the way here for her?" Mia nodded, holding the folder even tighter. "Yes. Mama was sad. I wanted to help. I can do anything to help her." Something inside Albert shifted. Years of control, calculation, and careful detachment gave way to the simplest of truths. Courage sometimes comes in the smallest of packages. "Very well," he said finally, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Let us begin the interview." Mia's eyes sparkled. She had done it. She had walked into the impossible and made it real. The city buzzed outside, oblivious to the tiny miracle that had just unfolded in the glass tower lobby. But inside, the air had changed. Somewhere between determination and innocence, something powerful had been set in motion, and no one would ever be the same again. Albert had faced thousands of interviews, but never like this. In the folder Lily brought, he didn't just see a resume. He saw a story that could change everything, if he had the courage to act on it. And that's exactly what he was about to do. The conference room was quieter than Mia had ever imagined a room could be. The polished wood table stretched before her, gleaming under the soft overhead lights, while the skyline outside framed the city like a distant, indifferent observer. She clutched her mother's portfolio close, the papers pressed to her chest like a shield. Every step into this unknown felt monumental. Albert Braden leaned back in his chair, legs crossed, fingers steepled. The legendary CEO, feared untouchable, seemingly untethered from ordinary human emotion, regarded her with measured calm. His eyes narrowed just enough to make her small heart beat faster. "Tell me," he said slowly, voice steady, deep, the kind that could slice through excuses or bravado alike. "Why does your mother want to work here?" Mia straightened, shoulders back, chin up. "Mama, she works really hard," she said. "She doesn't have time for herself. She wants to think again like she used to." Her small voice didn't tremble, but each word carried the weight of nights spent watching her mother struggle, the sacrifices made quietly unseen. Albert's eyes softened, though his posture stayed composed. He picked up the papers from the portfolio, flipping through them with deliberate slowness. The handwriting, neat and careful, traced every line of Sarah's journey. Honors, scholarships, leadership roles, and then the gaps, the late nights, the part-time jobs, the sacrifices no resume could ever fully capture. "And you?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. "You came here for her?" "Yes," Mia said simply. She pressed the portfolio closer. "She was sad, and I wanted to help. I wanted her to have a chance." The silence stretched, thick and almost unbearable. Albert's hand rested on the papers, but his eyes never left her. A small exhale, almost imperceptible, escaped him. He studied her, the small, determined child with a portfolio twice her size, the innocence in her gaze, and the raw, unshakable courage that no one in his office had ever brought before. For a heartbeat, the room felt suspended outside time. Then he spoke, voice measured but softening, almost as if testing the waters of a feeling long locked away. "She's hired." Mia blinked. Her mouth parted, but no sound came. Her small chest rose and fell rapidly. She wasn't sure if she should cry or laugh. But she didn't need to. She had done it. Albert's gaze lingered on her hands, clutching the papers like they contained the world. Let his fingers brush the edge of the portfolio lightly. A gesture of respect, acknowledgement. Something unspoken. "You've done something remarkable today," he said. "Not because of what's written here, but because of why you delivered it." Mia's mind raced, but only one thought surfaced. "Mama deserves this. I did it for her." He leaned back, offering her a small smile. The first in what must have been years, a real, human smile, not the polished mask of the corporate world. And for the first time Mia saw, not a CEO, but a person who understood. The moment stretched longer than it should have, filled with quiet reverence. Then Albert gestured toward the door. "You've earned her a chance. Now let's make sure she gets it properly." Mia's small face lit up, and she nodded. Her fingers relaxed their grip on the portfolio, a little of the tension leaving her tiny frame. For once, the world felt like it was on her side. And as she stepped out of the conference room, the weight of responsibility lifted. Slightly, not gone, not forgotten, but transformed into hope. A hope she carried for her mother, for herself, and for the life they were just beginning to imagine together. The day Mia walked into the CEO's office, she changed more than her mother's fate. She shifted the very air of that room, proving that courage doesn't come with age, but with heart. But the real test wasn't done. Outside the polished walls and glass towers, the city waited, full of challenges, skepticism, and obstacles no portfolio could prepare them for. Mia thought she had won. But what would it take for her mother to truly reclaim the life they had dreamed of? Morning sunlight glinted off the glass towers of the city. Sarah Parker stepped out, her heels clicking sharply on the sidewalk. Her blouse was crisp, skirt pressed, hair tied back neatly, but inside, her nerves churned like storm clouds. She clutched her bag tighter. "Courage, like Mia's, filled my chest," she reminded herself. "I can do this. I have to." The streets were alive with motion. Cars honked, cyclists weaved past, and pedestrians jostled past her shoulder. A taxi swerved too close, horn blaring. Sarah flinched but didn't stop. Every step carried the weight of hope. A tiny hand had trusted her to succeed. The lobby of Braden and Company buzzed with quiet urgency. Employees moved with swift purpose, heels clicking against polished marble floors. Screens flickered with project timelines and the scent of coffee lingered in the air. Sarah paused for a fraction of a second, feeling small. Then she squared her shoulders. I belong here as much as anyone, she thought. Miss Parker. Charlotte's voice cut through the hum, warm, grounding. He's expecting you. This way. Sarah followed, each step echoing in the sleek, glass-lined corridor. Her heart pounded with anticipation. The elevator ride felt like a countdown, each ding a reminder that this moment could change everything. She clutched her portfolio, palms sweating, and whispered softly, I can do this for Mia. The doors opened, revealing Albert Braden. He stood near the floor-to-ceiling window, posture perfect, expression unreadable. Light from the city skyline outlined his sharp silhouette. The man who never tolerated surprises now waited, and Sarah could feel the weight of every gaze in the room. Miss Parker, he said, voice calm, almost distant. I'm glad you could make it. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. Thank you for this opportunity. He gestured toward the chair, never breaking eye contact. Seat. I've reviewed your portfolio, but past performance isn't everything. Convince me why you belong here. Her chest tightened. She opened her notes, taking a slow, steadying breath. Everything I do, it's for my daughter. I want her to have choices, not fear. Albert's eyes narrowed slightly. A pause hung in the air, sharp and deliberate, stretching time. Then he leaned back, fingers steepled. Interesting. Tell me how you'd handle a failing project. They moved through scenarios, looming deadlines, problem-solving exercises, strategic planning. Sarah spoke clearly, presenting ideas that demonstrated creativity and grit. Albert occasionally tested her with sharp, skeptical questions, and she met each one with calm determination. At one point, she suggested a small but clever adjustment that could save hours of work. Albert didn't respond immediately. He paused, leaning closer to study her notes. Then a brief nod, subtle, almost imperceptible, but it hit her like validation. That single gesture carried more weight than any words could. Minutes stretched into hours. Sarah filed papers, answered queries, and organized tasks with meticulous precision. Colleagues glanced at her with curiosity. Whispers floated through the office. Every small action added to the impression she was building, a mosaic of determination and skill. By late afternoon, a quiet triumph settled over her. Not for herself, but for the little girl who had braved the streets to hand her that folder. Every choice, every calculated step carried the responsibility of that trust. Every decision now held consequences. Succeed, or risk letting Mia's courage down. Could Sarah rise to the challenge? Or would the weight of expectations and pressure threaten to crush her before she even began? The office felt alive and merciless. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above, casting cold, clinical shadows across polished desks. Monitors flickered, reflecting spreadsheets and charts in dizzying patterns. The faint smell of coffee and printer toner hung in the air. Every sound, phone rings, hurried footsteps, the software of the printer, felt like a countdown. Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart hammering. Every keystroke, every calculation could tip everything into failure. Mia's tiny hand felt heavy on hers, demanding perfection, urging her forward. Charlotte leaned in, whispering over her shoulder. It's a tight deadline. The client expects perfection by tomorrow morning. I'll make it work, Sarah said, voice firm but low. The project was a mountain. Tangled spreadsheets, clashing timelines, missing resources. Numbers swirled wrong again. Panic clawed at her chest, sweat prickling her palms. One misstep and all of Mia's courage, her mother's hope gone. Albert appeared behind her desk, silent, imposing. His eyes narrowed slightly, scanning her. Work with a predator's precision. Lips pressed thin, posture stiff. Each glance felt like a ticking clock, counting down to failure. Miss Parker, he said, calm, measured, dangerous. This client doesn't forgive errors. What's your plan? Sarah's jaw clenched. Fingers gripping the desk, she whispered. I'll reorganize workflow. Delegate efficiently, double-check every calculation. I won't let mistakes or deadlines get in the way. Albert's gaze lingered, unblinking. A silent test. He stepped back, shoulders stiff, hand brushing a folder, then paused. Micromoment streshan Leslie. Finally, a nod. Not a smile. Not words, but approval heavier than any praise she'd ever felt. The phones kept ringing. Emails surged like a storm. Colleagues moved around her in a blur of urgency. Sarah's hands flew across the keyboard, cross-checking data, correcting charts, rearranging slides. Red cells flashed on the spreadsheet. Errors she hadn't noticed. No. Not now. Not Mia, she muttered under her breath. Fingers trembling, she corrected. Formulas, recalculated projections, sweat stinging her eyes. Victory felt earned, teeth gritted. Heart racing. Each corrected mistake a tiny triumph in the chaos. Hours slipped by. The once messy project now gleamed. Charts aligned, figures precise, narratives flawless. She printed the final presentation, exhaled, trembling from exhaustion and triumph. Albert returned, expression unreadable. His hand lingered on the edge of her report. Eyes softened slightly, a faint crease near his brow. No words, but the weight of his approval sank deep into her chest. Charlotte's quiet whisper broke through the tension. You did it. Incredible work. Sarah's eyes closed for a brief moment, imagining Mia's bright blue eyes, shining with belief. She couldn't fail, not today. Not ever. Outside, the city glimmered under the setting sun, relentless and indifferent. Inside, Sarah realized the truth. Courage alone wasn't enough. She would have to fight, endure, and rise. Every single day. Today she survived. Tomorrow could crush her. Every office trap, looming deadline, and piercing expectation waited. Sharper, bigger, deadlier. Could she rise, or would the weight finally break her? Something was wrong. Every spreadsheet cell, every chart screamed sabotage. Her chest tightened. If she didn't fix this, everything could collapse. Her fingers flew over keys, knuckles white. The office felt alive, every sound amplified. Fluorescent hum piercing her focus. Keyboard clicks like gunfire, printer whirring like an ominous countdown. The faint acrid smell of burnt coffee stung her nose, sharpening her panic. Mistakes glared at her like mocking eyes. Figures she had triple-checked before now twisted in ways that made her stomach drop. Sarah, did you see this? Charlotte's voice was a lifeline, but the worry in it mirrored Sarah's own. Yes, I did everything carefully, Sarah muttered. Her mind raced. Who would sabotage? Me now? Mark appeared just then, gliding past with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. His smirk lingered too long. A folder slid slightly off the desk, a chart crooked. Then he passed, humming as if nothing had happened. But Sarah knew better. Shadows in the office weren't just figurative, they had teeth. Albert's shadow fell across the doorway, silent, observing. His gaze cut like a blade, scanning her, flicking between her hands, her screens, her posture. His shoulders shifted, slightly weighing the room. Each movement a silent test. Panic clawed at Sarah, but she pushed it down. I can't let this break me. Not today. Not for Mia. The minutes stretched like hours, each second a hammering drum in her chest. Red cells. Error. Check. Panic. Fingers trembling. Fixed. Another. Heart hammering. Don't fail. Not Mia. Her hands moved like lightning, mind snapping between corrections, double checks, recalculations. Sweat stung her eyes. Her back ached. The office, the monitors, the lights, the faint smell of toner, seemed alive, watching, waiting. Finally, every chart aligned, every figure flawless. Victory carved itself from chaos. She exhaled, trembling, exhausted, but undefeated. Albert's gaze lingered on the corrected projections. No words. A slow exhale. A fraction of a nod. The weight of approval hit her chest like gravity, pressing down, affirming, validating. Charlotte leaned close. Mark, he'll pay for this. But you handled it. Sarah's lips curved into a determined smile. Every betrayal, every shadow, every hand trying to push me under. I rise. I survive. I fight. Mia's hope is my armor, my fire. The battlefield just got deeper. Shadows whispered, traps waited, and no courage alone could guarantee survival. Could she navigate Albert's world? Or would the next ambush shatter her? The office had never felt this alive, or this threatening. The fluorescent lights above buzzed, low and sharp, echoing in Sarah's chest like a countdown she couldn't stop. Each monitor flickered in sharp bursts of blue and white, reflecting numbers and charts that seemed to leap at her eyes, daring her to make a mistake. Every footstep on the marble floor sounded amplified, as if the office itself were holding its breath, waiting to see her fail. Her palms were slick with sweat, fingers trembling over the keyboard. The hum of printers and faint hiss of the air conditioning made the air feel electric, heavy, alive. She could almost hear the whispers of the office walls. One wrong calculation, one missed figure, and everything would collapse. Mark leaned against the edge of her desk, a predator disguised in casual posture. His eyes glinted, sharp and calculating, watching her every move. He hummed softly, letting the silence stretch between them. A folder slid just slightly, tipping one of her spreadsheets, and Sarah's stomach twisted. It seemed insignificant, almost accidental. But she knew better. Mark's presence wasn't just a nuisance, it was a test. And she had no room for failure. Check this again, he said casually, leaning closer. His voice was quiet, but it cut sharper than a blade. Sarah's fingers froze for a heartbeat. Her heart pounded like war drums, every muscle tense. She imagined Mia's blue eyes, wide and trusting. I can't fail her. Not today. Not ever. Her gaze returned to the spreadsheet, red cells glaring back like warning lights. Panic bubbled in her chest. One misstep could erase months of preparation, destroy the fragile hope she carried in her chest. Her fingers flew, recalculating, correcting. The keyboard clicked under trembling hands. Check. Correct. Freeze. Red. Fingers fly again. Panic. Recalculate. Enter. Green. Relief fleeting, like the first breath after being underwater too long. Mark's smirk lingered, watching for the tiniest crack in her composure, a flicker of hesitation. He was hunting her confidence, and the office felt like a battlefield with him as the shadow over every move she made. But Sarah refused to flinch. Every betrayal, every shadow, every hand trying to push me under. I rise. I survive. I fight. Mia's hope is my armor, my fire. Albert's gaze swept across the room, unyielding. He moved silently, almost like a predator, eyes slicing through the chaos. Every flick of his wrist, every tilt of his brow, felt like judgment itself. Sarah could feel the weight of him in the air, heavy and immovable. One glance, one misstep, and she could feel the walls of this office closing in, crushing her. Sweat stung her eyes, muscles stiffened from tension, and her chest ached from holding her breath. She imagined Mia's tiny hands gripping the folder she had once carried, so much courage packed into such a small frame. The memory burned her from within, a reminder that failure was not an option. Minutes stretched and collapsed in unpredictable bursts. Errors flickered on her screen like ghosts, threatening to undo everything. Fingers flying, breath coming in sharp gasps, she corrected, recalculated, realigned. Each victory was tiny, hard-won, sweat-stung and trembling, but each one carried the weight of hope. Albert finally paused, hovering over her shoulder. His gaze lingered on the corrected projections. No words. Just a slow exhale. A micro-nod. The weight of approval hit her chest. Like gravity, pressing hard, confirming all her efforts, but not easing the tension. Not yet. The battlefield was far from over. Mark retreated, still smirking, but the shadows of his presence lingered. Sarah exhaled, trembling, victorious yet drained, her heart still racing. Every chart aligned. Every figure perfect. A small, fragile victory, but victory nonetheless. And yet, even as relief brushed her skin, a whisper of danger threaded through the office. Tomorrow would not be easier. The traps would only grow sharper, deadlier, more insidious. One wrong choice, and everything she had fought for, Mia's courage, her mother's hope, could vanish in a heartbeat. The first battle was survived, but the war had only begun. Shadows moved in quiet corners, plotting, waiting. Every keystroke, every decision, carried weight now heavier than before. The office wasn't just a workplace, it was a battlefield. And Sarah had no choice but to navigate it. The office air was razor-sharp, each fluorescent buzz slicing through Sarah's skull. The polished marble reflected 1,000 potential mistakes, each one threatening to undo everything she'd fought for. Every step across the floor felt like walking a tightrope over a pit that could swallow months of effort in a heartbeat. Mark was already there, leaning across a far desk, eyes glinting like hunting cats. Every casual movement seemed loaded with intent. One glance could crush a mistake, one smirk could ignite panic in her chest. He hummed softly, a predator testing the bounds of its prey. Sarah's palms were slick. The keys beneath her fingers felt slippery. The printers hummed like static, each click echoing like gunshots. Even the faint scent of burnt coffee seemed to conspire against her focus, clawing at her concentration. Every sense screamed danger. Every heartbeat reminded her of Mia's wide, trusting eyes. I can't fail her, not now. Not ever. A folder slid across her desk. She caught it mid-fall, heart hammering. The spreadsheet was tipped slightly, cells misaligned, formulas blinking red like sirens in her mind. One wrong decimal, one overlooked error, and months of work, Mia's future, everything could collapse. Fingers flew, correcting, recalculating, aligning. Check. Red. Recalculate. Green. Breathe. Pause. Red again. Fingers fly. Sweat stings eyes. Heart hammering. Don't fail. Mia, don't let her down. Albert entered silently. The room shrank under him. His gaze didn't just look at her, it cut into her, weighing her will, testing every move she made. Every breath, every blink, a question. Will she survive this? He was silent, but the pressure he radiated felt heavier than the walls themselves. Sarah's chest tightened. The air seemed to vibrate with the weight of his judgment. Mark's smirk lingered as he leaned back, letting silence stretch like a trap around her. Every flicker of doubt in her mind, every small miscalculation, was a potential opening for him. But Sarah refused to flinch. Every shadow, every hand trying to push her under. She rose above it. I survive. I fight. Mia's hope is my armor. The minutes stretched. Her heart raced, hands trembling, mind on fire. Each correction was a tiny battle, each green cell a small victory. Sweat burned her eyes, muscles ached, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. One misstep now wasn't just failure, it was betrayal to Mia's courage, a betrayal she could never forgive herself for. Then, without warning, a cold, unmarked folder slid across her desk. No note, no warning, just a deliberate challenge, a gauntlet thrown in her path. Her chest froze. Every instinct screamed, this is the next battlefield. Albert's gaze lingered, sharp and unreadable. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just watched, letting the weight of expectation sink deep, testing the strength of her resolve. Sarah exhaled, trembling, brushing sweat from her palms. She had survived the first trap, but the battlefield had changed. Every keystroke, every glance, every breath now carried lethal stakes. One misstep could destroy months of hope. One blink could cost Mia her future. The shadows were closing, and they didn't forgive. The next challenge had arrived. And this time, there was no margin for error. The office air was razor-sharp. Each fluorescent buzz slashed across Sarah's skull like static, vibrating through her teeth and settling in her chest. The polished marble reflected not light but judgment. Every misstep, every hesitation, every faltering breath mirrored in the unforgiving surface. She felt the temperature like needles on her neck, the AC biting at her skin while the faint acrid scent of burnt coffee coiled in the air, making her stomach twist. Mark was there prowling. Not subtle anymore. He leaned just slightly, fingers brushing hers, as he slid a thick, sealed folder across the desk. Too casual, too deliberate. Sarah's chest seized. Every instinct screamed. A predator in the room. His smirk flickered like a blade, a silent challenge daring her to slip. Her hands were slick, the keyboard slippery under trembling fingers. Each spreadsheet cell blinked like a warning light, a countdown to catastrophe. One miscalculation, one decimal. Missed and months of effort. Mia's hope, her mother's sacrifice would crumble in an instant. She swallowed, jaw tight. Her heart hammered, pulse echoing in her temples, throat dry, muscles coiled like springs. Every keystroke, every correction, was a small battle. Red. Fix. Green. Pause. Red again. Each blink of the cursor was a drumbeat marking her survival, or failure. Albert entered silently, and the air shifted. The room contracted, oppressive, like a cage. His gaze cut through her like a scalpel, cold and precise. Not a glance, an evaluation. Every micro-movement of her body, every twitch of a finger, every shallow inhale measured against his invisible scale. The folder slid again. Unmarked. Cold. A gauntlet thrown in her path. She froze for a heartbeat. Then dove in, recalculating, cross-referencing, verifying. The office was alive with threats. Hum of printers, flicker of monitors, click of keys, each amplified into a predator's roar. Mark circled, humming low, deliberate, stalking. His presence was oppressive, venomous, yet silent. Careful, he whispered over her shoulder, voice smooth, smile cruel. Wouldn't want a mistake slipping through, would we? Sarah's mind raced. Hands steady. Eyes sharp. Focus. Mia, don't fail her. Adrenaline made her tremble, but she pushed on, muscles tight, senses stretched taut. The spreadsheets read. Cells blinked like alarms. Sweat stung her eyes. The acrid coffee burned at her nostrils. Each error felt like a personal betrayal. A crack in the foundation of everything she was fighting for. Albert's gaze didn't waver. His hands rested lightly on the edge of a chair, shoulders squared, a silent apex predator observing his prey. Every breath she took seemed measured. Against his, every thought weighed. A single misstep could unravel it all. Finally, she corrected the last flagged discrepancy. The cells glowed green. Relief surged sharp, intoxicating, yet fleeting. Albert's eyes lingered on her work, a faint crease at the brow, lips pressing together in slow consideration. No words, just the weight of judgment hanging in the air. The recognition sank into her chest like gravity. She had survived this gauntlet. But the office hadn't changed. Shadows lingered. Mark's eyes glittered with unsaid menace, waiting for the next falter. Every sound, every movement hinted at an approaching trap. Every heartbeat carried lethal stakes. Survival today didn't guarantee tomorrow. Sarah exhaled, trembling, fingers curling around the chair. She felt Mia's presence even miles away, her blue eyes shining with unwavering belief. I can't fail her. Not now. Not ever. And somewhere in the hum of the office, the shadows whispered a promise. The next challenge will be deadlier, and this time survival might not be enough. The office air was razor sharp, slicing into Sarah's lungs with every breath. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects, reflecting off polished marble floors and fractured patterns. Each glint, each shadow whispered warnings. Her pulse throbbed against her ribcage, a staccato drum of panic and purpose. The faint acrid smell of burnt coffee clawed at her nostrils. Each inhale a sting that twisted into her focus. Cold AC air bit at the back of her neck, sweat clinging to her spine, a cruel reminder that her body was betraying her. Every chair leg dug sharply into her calves, every fingertip brushing keys burned like fire. Mark hovered, predator in human form. His eyes were hunting cats, glinting with intent. Each casual movement, hovering over the mouse, nudging a folder, tapping a pen, was a silent countdown to her failure. Sarah felt it in her bones. One flicker, one hesitation, and he'll pounce. Even the reflection of his eyes in the monitor made her chest tighten. Albert's gaze cut through the chaos like a scalpel. He hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, but the room shrank under him. Every breath, every heartbeat was measured against him. He was a living, silent apex predator. Sarah's hands trembled, yet she couldn't stop. Every keystroke was a gamble, a war fought in silence. One slip, months of hope vanish. One blink. I fail. Mia. Then it came, the folder. Unmarked. Heavier than it looked. It slid across her desk with surgical precision. A gauntlet thrown. Her chest froze. Every instinct screamed, this is the next battlefield. She dove in. Spreadsheets stretched endlessly, formulas looping, red cells blinking like alarms. Red. Her chest tightened. Fingers trembling. Sweat-stung eyes. Not now. Not Mia. Green. Relief fleeting, fragile. Red. Panic gripped her again. Check. Correct. Recalculate. Heart pounding, knuckles white, throat tight. Each flash of red was a predator circling closer. Mark leaned back, humming softly. The silence is a trap. Every subtle smirk, every minute adjustment he made to the papers was calculated to unbalance her. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. His menace was invasive, crawling into her thoughts, turning rhythm into chaos. Albert shifted slightly. A faint exhale. A micronod. His eyes flicked to her work, back to her, then rested somewhere between judgment and acknowledgement. Sarah felt the weight crush her chest. Approval, if it came, would be absolute. Hesitation would feel like falling into an abyss. Her mind screamed and sang at once. Every keystroke is for Mia. Every breath is a gamble. Don't fail her. Not today. Not ever. The battle raged in rapid-fire beats. Red. Fix. Green. Breathe. Red. Recalculate. Heart racing. Fingers flying. Sweat stinging. Mia's face in her mind. I can't fail. I won't. Finally, green cells blinked triumphant. The spreadsheets were flawless. The gauntlet survived. Relief washed over her, but jagged, fragile, knowing the battlefield had only shifted, not ended. Albert's eyes lingered, sharp, unyielding. A tilt of the head. A slow exhale. A fraction of a nod. No words. Yet the weight of approval hit her chest like a tidal wave. Mark recoiled, his smirk momentarily gone, but the glint in his eyes promised more. The office hummed with unspoken tension. Shadows stirred in corners, whispering the next challenge, the next trap. Sarah exhaled, trembling. Fingers still hovering over the keyboard. She imagined Mia's wide, unwavering eyes. Hope anchored her heart. We survived. We can do this. And then the silence pressed in, heavier than ever. Somewhere, beyond this office, the next gauntlet had already been set. Silent. Patient. Deadly. The battle was far from over. The office wasn't just quiet. It was alive, waiting. Every hum of the fluorescent lights buzzed. Like a predator's whisper, slicing through her skull. The marble floor under her heels was razor cold, each step pressing anxiety into her bones. The faint acrid scent of burnt coffee clawed at her nose, twisting her stomach into knots. Her pulse throbbed so loud it felt as if the office itself could hear it. Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. Sweat slicked her palms, burning. Fingertips as if the keys themselves were alive. Heart hammering. Breath short. Muscles taut. For Mia. For every sacrifice. For every sleepless night that led here. Mark lingered, predator in human form. His eyes glinted like steel traps, each subtle flicker a reminder that he would pounce at the slightest hesitation. The smirk was gone, replaced by an almost imperceptible tension, recognition that Sarah was no longer prey. Every pen tap, every slight lean, every flicker of his gaze felt deliberate. Albert entered, silent. The room shrank under him. His presence wasn't just weight, it was gravity, judgment, and expectation rolled into one living apex. He didn't speak. He didn't move much. But every micro-expression, eye narrowing, brow twitching, subtle exhale, was a verdict Sarah had to decipher. Approval or condemnation balanced on a knife's edge. The final folder slid across her desk like a challenge thrown by fate itself. No note. No instructions. Just the cold, deliberate weight of expectation. Her chest froze. Every keystroke. Every breath. Every heartbeat. This is the battlefield. Red cells blinked again. Her chest seized. Fingers flew. Green. Temporary relief. Red again. Another trap snapping shut. She moved faster, sharper, alive in a rhythm of survival. Check. Panic. Recalc. Correct. Breathe. Don't stop. Mia, don't let her down. Albert's gaze sliced into her. She felt the pressure in her chest as he lingered on the spreadsheet, then flicked to her eyes. Was it approval or a warning? The line between triumph and annihilation had never been thinner. Mark's shadow lingered even as he retreated, a reminder that the predator never truly sleeps. Every glance, every hum, every movement of his body in the periphery whispered, "Your victory is temporary." Finally, green cells gleamed across the monitors. Perfect. Every calculation aligned. Every risk neutralized. The final project complete. Sarah exhaled, trembling. Relief surged through her, electric and sharp. Triumph raw and breathtaking. She let herself feel it. Mia's unwavering faith, the sacrifices made, the battles fought silently, all culminated here. Albert moved. Slowly. Deliberately. His gaze lingered on the corner of the spreadsheet. A faint nod. Lips pressed just so. A tilt of his head. No words. Yet the weight of approval hit. Harder than any praise ever could. The office hummed with quiet victory, but shadows remained. Beyond the glass walls. Beyond polished marble and buzzing lights. A new battlefield was already forming. Silent. Patient. Deadly. And this time, survival wouldn't be enough. She would have to dominate. Red. Panic. Fingers trembling. Sweat stinging. Heart hammering. Green. Relief but fleeting. Another red. Another heartbeat lost. I rise. I fight. I will not fall. Sarah straightened, chest heaving, eyes blazing. Whatever came next, she was ready. And now she knew she wouldn't just survive. She would conquer.